order the August council meeting, special meeting. We all raise. We pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You all please be seated. Cell phones, no disruptions. The first on the agenda is the public comment. First one on the list is Michael Phillips.
I just have a couple of questions. Did you run an ad in order to find candidates for an interim town manager, and if so, where? If not, what made you choose a single candidate instead of running an ad? And does our charter require an ad to be run to fill the position of town manager? As a resident of this town, I think we should be allowed to have more information regarding why an interim town manager is being appointed and what has happened with our previous town manager. As well, outside of that, yesterday code enforcement was directed to my residence by a member of council, of which council persons do not have the authority. Only the town manager, which we don't have, has the authority to make accusations according to the ordinance. Notice of trespass must also be given. Who made that accusation?
Thank you. The next one on the list is Kelly.
I've been watching your meetings online. I'm sure many of you know that the state now requires that. I understand that our town manager has been suspended, pending whatever. The things that are alarming to your residents will be that things are not still running the way that they should procedure-wise. The agenda for this meeting, as well as the meeting you had earlier this week, is not posted on your website. It's legally required by law. The meetings have not been getting streamed, either not in their entirety or not at all. Your executive sessions are absolutely private as long as they are relevant, but any motions and votes afterwards are not and do need to be made public. So my request is for any motions made after the August 13th meeting, as well as the full vote, and any motions and the full vote from the meeting that happened on Monday night. I have to agree with Mr. Phillips on the question about an interim town manager. Watched this dog and pony show before. It is an absolute roundabout way to slide somebody else in without following protocol. And if you're going to be hiring, then we need to do things the right way. And at this point, the council has not addressed its residents as to what choices you have made and what you have done and what your plan is, because it affects us. So, look, you guys have a hard job, that's fine, but when you make choices, own your shit, say what needs to be said, and address your residents and let them know the truth. I certainly hope when this witch hunt is done, you are men enough to stand up and hold yourself to the fire as you've done to somebody else.
Thank you. Okay. As if for the public comment, we will now move on to the second, which is discussion of the 2026 budget. Chief, if you would like to start.
Yeah, so this has been a daunting task. many reasons. This week our state server stopped communicating with our internal servers, so we currently have none of our drives that we had active. So we're working backwards until the state can get that addressed for us. So luckily I had some stuff saved on the side hard drive, so I was able to provide you guys with the proposed budget. This was no easy task, only because I don't know what our finances are year to date. They were never fully reconciled by the town manager, so I can't tell you what has been done and what has not been done. With that being said, I have provided you with the proposed budget, a very, 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 very rough draft of the proposed budget. And attached to that as well, you should have our expenditures for year to date as the police department reports upon them. So the first 3 pages are the proposed budget. As you see, there are separate brackets. One bracket is for no raises of salaries to the employees. The second is for a 2% raise of salaries to employees, and the final is a 4% raise, rough draft for raises to the employees. After that, you will see the comparisons of year to date as the police department reports. The biggest discrepancies that I'm going to have to see at some point is to find out what happened to our salary line items. So we requested that $27,900 of FY24 Discover be paid towards Corporal Tucker's salary, which should have freed up $27,902 from the salary line item. I don't know if that was ever done. The second is Sussex County FY25, $26,000 of that was resubmitted to be added to the salaries, back to salaries to cover that, which should have freed up even more room in the salary line item. So between the $26,000 from Sussex County and the $27,000 from the Discover grant, we're roughly looking at $53,000 that should have been freeing up space from the salary line item that the police department is trying to save the town. So I have to ensure that that has been done. Obviously, I can't do that. I don't have access to those numbers. There was a proposed budget in 25 for officers' increase in salaries, pay scales. As you can see, this was not just an across-the-board raise request. This was what we consider a VARP, a variable annual raise percentage. This VARP was done from the bottom up, meaning the hierarchy made more money, where the lower got less percentages. I don't like to operate like that. So you can take a look at that. Those were the numbers for the request. A late addition was, I found out that the lieutenant was provided a raise on top of the already approved budget proposal. So that raise was bumped up to $78,748, which then caused my salary to have to go up, so I make more than the lieutenant, so there's a percentage above the lieutenant. My salary went up, and then I deferred $2,000 of my own salary back to a sign-on bonus to try to recruit a third officer. With that being said, what I'm trying to propose, instead of doing a flat 2% or a flat 4% across the board for raises or salary raises, is to do basically a reverse bar, doing it from the bottom up with the higher percentages to the bottom. And the reason we would do that is to, ensure officer retention, to compete with other agency starting salaries. The starting salary for other agencies right now, the basic starting salary is $65,000 a year. We're nowhere even near that, and that's fine. But we want to ensure, recruitment and retention is our highest priority. Because if you know what the police world's like right now, it's literally like baseball free agency. With everyone having a unified pension, there's really nothing that keeps officers in a placement. So you got to get creative in ways. So with that being said, these are the scales that I suggested. Obviously, the lower end spectrum getting the higher raises, and the upper end getting the lower raises. So I would only be proposing a 2% raise for myself and the lieutenant, equal across the board. but the lower rankings getting the higher percentages to maintain that percentage raises to ensure a retention. So if there's any line items or specifics that you guys would like to discuss or that you see that I can possibly answer questions for, again, this is the roughest draft of a rough draft that I can give you without physically knowing what the numbers from the town managers, the finance side is. I'm reviewing what we have because as the police department, obviously what we do is we track, we record, and we report. That's all we do. We don't handle the finances. So. On the total expenditure line, you can see that there was some line items that have went over the set budgets for that, but overall we're in pretty good shape of expenditures on the police department side, unless there's any unexpected surprises that I'm not aware of.
Right now, you're trying to base, from my understanding of what you just said, is you're trying to base the budget without seeing where about $80,000 was from last year's budget.
Well, I got to find out where that money was allocated to. It's roughly $53,000 that I requested to be kicked back towards the salary line item, which would have freed up that salary line to maybe line share, line steal, whatever you want to say, add it to a surplus or so have you. I don't know. I don't know where it's at.
In comparison to what the town has.
Right.
And then that also includes the raise that Lieutenant had is also included.
Well, that obviously was prior to my appointment. This was done. What I was told was this budget was passed on this projected pay scale of FY25. That was passed, and then the lieutenant received a pay raise, which obviously when he received a pay raise would have put him above me as the chief, so they had to offer me a higher amount to ensure that the chief of police makes more money than the lieutenant. But those numbers don't add up to me, they're not reflecting. It doesn't look like that number was ever changed in the actual approved budget. The largest issue I have is back in May, I believe it was May, in May, I received an email from the town manager who was requesting to know which budget the police department was operating off of. And I was a little confused and spoke with my lieutenant and was like, what do you mean? She had provided us with 3 sample budgets, and I was confused on why the town manager, the finance manager, did not know what budget we were operating off of. There was 3 different versions, all of which had different numbers. So when I spoke to the lieutenant, because obviously this budget was passed prior to my appointment, it was determined that we had found the budget that would have been approved by council, and that's what we were operating off of. But after I reviewed it, I found out that there was no way we could be operating off of that because our salaries didn't match what the reported salary was. So I was confused on where that money was coming from. So, I mean, in my opinion, the financials need a full reconciliation and or review that can be compared to the police department's numbers to ensure that the police department's reporting, because again, we report, it's all we do. We follow our budget and report as long as that money's being designated to where I as a chief am requesting that money be designated when we have overages or surpluses. To ensure that my numbers are matching the town's numbers. So that's kind of where we're at. It's kind of hard for me to give you an accurate, and again, in normal circumstances, we're in August. I can't project exactly where we're going to fall. We still have months left. We're going to be responsible financially and ensure that we don't go over, but I can't tell you where we're going to fall. I'm only projecting. So that's kind of where we're at.
know where the money was pulled from, but I can tell you why the lieutenant got his raise and we had to bump his salary. Because you were, at that point in time, you were getting ready to lose your entire police force. You had none. Lieutenant Thomas had a job offer sitting on the table. I found out about it when I was signing checks. I reached out to him, he confirmed it. He told me how much he was offered. I asked the town manager if we could match it or bring his salary up to that. I don't know where, but she said we had the money.
She did
Because of where this was, the way it was passed, thing was passed for 3 officers. At that point, we only had 1. So I think she pulled the money from the 3rd one that was the end of that budget because we had an officer leave and we still had money sitting there. So we had enough money sitting in the leftover budget to grant Sergeant Thomas at the time his raise. We reached out, I got on the phone to Chief Walton and said, this is the predicament we're in. Sergeant Thomas was thinking about leaving. This is what we can do, what I'm being told we can do. I said, are you okay with this? He said, yes. And then he turned around and said, let's take $2,000 out of that, what you're offering, and make it a signing bonus. So we can get that 3rd officer in as an incentive. And as soon, not long after, I sat here, swore in Chief Thomas, or Chief Walton. He then turned to me and said, I have an application already in process, just come through, which for the 3rd officer. And then the process began, and that's where all that came from. This was the proposed budget that was already, that Sergeant Thomas brought to the council to increase, to get more police officers here, because everybody's been watching the news and Lewis went from 56,000 to a starting patrolman at $75,000. You're not gonna keep nobody here when they can go to Lewis and make $75,000. So I was in that room, I asked her, can we do it? She said, yes, we can. He okayed it, and he was very energetic and said, if we can make it happen, make it happen. We made it happen. Chief came in, he did his thing, then Sergeant Thomas was promoted, and then a month or 2 later, Tucker walks in the door, bam, you got full staff by end of January. You were back to normal.
But, so from my understanding, Ms. Todd said that that was within the money that she had for the budget of the police department that was already set in place.
That was leftover. You were paying for 3 officers. You had a chief, you had a 1 patrol sergeant, and then you had another one.
So it was still in the budget.
It was
for
still in the budget. For the remaining, this budget did not go into effect yet.
So may I ask a question, sir? Was that a surplus from the 24 budget that?
I'm assuming so. I can't answer that. I don't.
Yeah, that's where I'm confused, and that's.
All I did was say, can we match what's there to keep them here?
And Ms. Todd said that was
And
definitely
we
coming
said, we were told we had the money.
from the police budget, or we just.
I don't know where it came from, but all I was told was we had the money to make it happen.
It provides the background, but not why you were provided 3 different budgets.
No, I mean, I have the
That's
3,
what doesn't make sense.
the 3 different budgets that were provided to me in the email were labeled as, give me 1 second, I apologize. Three separate budgets. Could you please verify which option of the attached budget you adopted with the council? I know Lieutenant Thomas helped in the preparation, but council requested we combine the 2. I want to make sure I have the right numbers when I split it up. And I was provided 3 sample budgets, and I met with Lieutenant Thomas, and he stated it was option 2. So that's the budget and this, again, this was May, and this is where I caused me alarm, because we're 5 months into the fiscal year, and we don't know what budget we're operating off of. That can be a financial disaster, in my opinion.
So what was the established budget? That's the one that everybody should be going off of, not the 2.
Yes, it should be. So So this is option 2, and this is what I was told was the right budget. I can provide a copy to council.
We need to copy 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, I have it all. These are the only copies I have, though. I mean, I can pull the email back up and reprint it back out, but I can let you view these and I can provide you copies. Is that okay?
See, that money could even been pulled from the real estate transfer tax, and one of them other ones that's not set that you can pull money from to use it however you see fit. It's not guaranteed strictly for one thing. You can pull money from one thing to the other, and that could be where it came from. But my biggest concern was making sure this town had a police department, period.
There was 2
That was my goal.
I'm not sure. One was option 2.
Again, that's-
And the only fault that I can say that I did as the interim mayor then was didn't come back to the table in January but all this happened in December. So I was only here for like 2 seconds and then I was gone. So there was no way that I could go back and try to make an amendment to that because
We're here.
we weren't here.
Which, like I said, the story,
What?
I get the story, but you're bringing up exactly the point. Okay, where was money pulled from? We don't have that data. You know, that's the thing that's now causing us the
Right.
issues and the hard decisions.
At
That's
that
what it
time,
is.
my biggest concern was A, keeping the police force for the town.
Right.
B, getting the police chief here because we're gonna lose accreditation, and then C, you're gonna lose your entire police force, and then you're gonna have 1,000 people sitting at that door asking you where the cops are.
This is gonna take some time to be looking through. I do see that.
So I had to make that tough decision at that moment that as the acting mayor, that I, according to the charter, that allowed me to make that decision right then, so we did not lose our police department.
Right. Because again, the decision totally understood.
Yes,
Now we're just on the back end, where'd it come from?
where it comes from. If you're not sure, and we're not sure where it came from. I mean, I'm seeing here with the options that were given to me, option 2 is the highest one, with the total income. So of course, they wanted to go with option 2 for the money that we were supposedly not paying. You know, the pay raises, they would say option 2. The problem therein lies is where the money was coming from to cover the extra costs of the police officers, which obviously need to be done, and I agree with you, Mayor, that we need to keep up with this. But where the money came from is the biggest issue, because if it's not out of the police budget, then where did it come from? So, that's gonna take some big looking into it. Because nobody knows, you're not, chief, obviously you're not aware of Marin, you're not here, I was not here when it came about. There should have been one budget in place.
Yeah, I don't know where
Why there were
all
three
these
different budgets.
options came from, and again, this was passed on to me in May, just kind of dropped in my lap, and, you know, I had a budget that was provided to me when I started here in a folder, and that's what I was operating off of, but I believe that was just option 2, and I was told we're operating off of option 2 revised, and I'd never even heard of option 2 revised. I don't know who revised it, I don't know why it happened.
This is obviously something that we're gonna need to take a bigger look into. Thank you for making us
Yeah, I
aware
mean,
of this.
for me to give you guys accurate numbers and for me to provide you with you know, a good financial budget, I gotta know where we are year to date to see our expenditures compared to what the town has reported. But, you know, their numbers, the town side is what matters. My numbers are just reporting, logging, tracking, and reporting, that's it. Her numbers are what matters, because if we have discrepancies in those numbers, we have to find where we gotta match them at. Because, you know, little things like the examples of the Sussex County grant, we had to decide to transfer that money to the salary line item because it was coming up end of the fiscal budget. We had to use that money so we could reapply for 2026. So the smartest thing to do is, hey, the path of least resistance is to just transfer it to the salary line item. And if I needed to, we could request an amendment from that to put that money towards vehicle maintenance or this or that. Line items, if you will, to maintain not going over on certain line items. I don't know if it ever happened. I've never seen the numbers. Can't tell you.
So the biggest thing is obviously the conflict between what you're seeing for you to be able to give a budget and what the town is showing.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. I have to see what the town size reported. Because we're tracking on our end of how we're maintaining it. But,
But it's not,
yeah,
not the same as what the town is showing.
correct. If it would be easier, I can, whichever council member wants to be the point of contact, I can literally just forward this email chain with the options, so you have the full email, not just, what I'm providing you, you can see the full email chain. That way, then you can make the copies of what I was told I'm working with, so.
I feel like you just forward it to all of us.
Okay, no worries.
Just want to be transparent, show to all of us, so we all can take a look at it, and then obviously make a group message to all, which is fine. I think that's the best way to look at it. I know that it's pretty much impossible if you're trying to deal with a budget on not knowing where the money is. And you know where it is on your side, but you're not sure where it is on the town side.
Right, and that's, I just gotta make sure it's mirrored. If it's mirrored and the numbers are right, then we're good. I just, I have a funny feeling that my numbers are gonna be different because, there was money that I requested to be moved around. The two big ones were Sussex County and Discover to ensure that those salaries are met, because when I found out about the raises, I'm like, well, we gotta make sure we're under then. Our budget doesn't need to exceed, we need to make sure we're under on that budget salary line item, so, that's why we push those numbers back to salary, as well as, the hiring of the full-time police administrator, which, when we're done discussing this portion of financials, I can move into the secondary portion of financials for that, if you guys are okay.
Chief, the only question I have
Yes, sir.
is are we giving any extra money for the dog, for that officer in the dog?
Was there money added?
Her salary more, don't they make, if they're a handler, don't they get more salary because they've got constant training with the dog and they, like their salary's more?
No, she will not receive any salary benefit from it. So basically, in the policy, she would be granted 1 hour of canine time per shift. That 1 hour of canine time can be utilized for her to prepare the dog and, finalize the dog for duty, for its tour.
So no other departments, their salaries aren't, because they're canine
Oh, yeah,
handlers, not different.
Oh yeah, other departments definitely pay their canine officers.
Well, that's what I'm trying to get at, is that here, so we can make that decision to adjust. Because my ultimate goal is, my police department, I want it to continue to grow, and I want everybody that's here to stay here. So if we have to move things around to increase, to keep them, then that's what I like to be done.
Typically, that is something that's covered in a contract, like a CBA, a collective bargaining agreement. We don't have that. I did not add any monetary benefit for being a canine handler. Again, the thing that I added was the 1 hour of canine maintenance to ensure that the handler has time to prepare the dog for its tour and then, de-escalate the dog from its tour. So that's kind of the benefit you get. You're getting a paid hour to ensure that the dog's needs are met.
My biggest thing is I need to try to find out some more.
I mean,
Where we can get more money from, because I think
I would
those
love to hear
officers
more.
are underpaid for the stress that's involved. And I know we can't match Lewis, but I know the little small town of Dagenboro and Frankfurt that doesn't have the traffic that we do are paying people a lot more than what we're offering. And
We're on the lower end of the spectrum. I
if
don't,
we can keep raising something to keep, obviously somebody coming in to go to police academy, the 55,000 is a great start for somebody just getting out of high school that can pass that test. I've tried it 4 times and didn't even come close. I made it to the running part, and that's as far as I made it. But, so, I know what that test is involved and it takes. So, I commend anybody that can pass that thing, because when I did the written part, I see one question here, got to the other 2 pages, the same question, but reworded, screwed me all up. I think this is kind of low, so I want to try to figure out from the PFC up, if we try to bump them up a little bit, just to say, we do appreciate everything that everybody's doing here for the town people and for us, and that's the way that we can make it work somehow.
I mean,
That's what I like to do.
I love the train of thought, and I would love to pay, at least our lateral position to be comparable and competitive with other agencies' starting salaries. If other agencies are hiring officers at 65, and my corporal's only making 60, that their corporals are making 80s, 90s, so I'm way behind the game, but I understand, we are a lot smaller municipality, but there's comparable municipalities that are still competing with that starting salary. So I'm not asking for a huge starting salary bump, I'm asking to take care of the officers that we have for retention purposes, that's it. And that's why I projected and I proposed that it be a reverse bar, instead of the top getting the money and going down in percentages. Start at the bottom and give them the higher percentages, and then the top can get their lower percentages.
I agree.
Councilman Moran, there's another thing to consider as doing math is, I'm gonna call it administrative, but I don't mean your administrative staff, members, but just supplies. That budget is awfully low, looking at it. So there's like vehicle maintenance, $2,500, I've already spent that on my vehicle, and it's not a cop car.
I get it, and I know what it costs to service a vehicle.
Yeah, I'm just saying that if we're increasing, we gotta look at both.
We have to look at both, but you can see where you're coming from, but you do have your real estate transfer tax that money comes in that you can pull from. You've got the arbor funds, I believe, that you can pull things from. There are different accounts that are not set in stone that we can slide money over to use it. And then obviously they have the Sussex County grant that they can use for whatever. So there's ways that we can probably make this work.
Okay.
Because the ultimate goal is, we all have the same goal, is for our police department to grow. His vision, when we talked, when he got here, was the bar was set real high, but when I asked him questions, he was able to spit them out. When all 5 people that sat here just spit them out, he was able to answer. He wants to see this place grow. And to a point where we got to a point where we had so many officers, then the chief could sit over there and do the administrative stuff and do what needs to be, because outside was being taken care of. And then when he got tired, everything was handled in there, then chief said, I'm going to go out here and tag team, and we're going to flag and do everything else. And
Yeah, and also my point is I want both to increase. I'm with you on the payroll. Let's not forget the administrative side, because the tools to do it, because it's a headache.
Right.
And yeah, I get paid well or paid better, but I'm using, the same paper clip 20 times.
And I'm in agreement with both of you. I think the biggest issue that I'm seeing at hand right now is the conflict of numbers between what the police department has and what the town has. And for us to establish and make any decisions on what to do with pay raises or what to take money from, we need to make sure that these numbers correspond with each other. That way our chief of police knows exactly what he's doing. Because right now he's looking at numbers that he thinks he has that he may not. Unfortunately, that's the case right now, and I agree with both of you that they deserve a pay raise. We want them to be here for a long time. But you got first things first is to make sure that our numbers are corresponding with the chief's numbers, so we know exactly what to do with the money that we have.
So first budget meeting too.
Yeah, it's the first budget meeting as well. But I think that we want to look at first things first. I'm in agreement with both of you guys. We got to figure out where these numbers are and how to get them aligned correctly, so we know exactly what we're looking at.
Yeah, if once you, members of council, Mr. Mayor, once you reviewed everything, if you have specific questions, because there are some expenditures that I've requested increases on, obviously we just touched on it. Vehicle maintenance, that was a ridiculous amount of money to try to maintain a fleet of vehicles with. The other was the officers' overtime. The officers' overtime was bare bones minimum. That doesn't even include holidays. I couldn't even pay officers who work holidays because they get a holiday premium. So, I mean, that's gonna have to be increased unless you just don't want cops working on holidays. And in my opinion, that's when you want cops working, so, the citizens and the constituents can be at home safely, not without having police protection. So, I mean, there's line items that have been, pitched high. Obviously, I like to call budgets, let's make a deal. I ask, you tell me no, and I come back and ask for half. So it's kind of, that's how you get budgets done. We find a happy median and, do it within the financial capabilities of the town. So, If there's any questions on specific line items that I can answer that, hey, why did this go up or why is this going down? You know, because where we went up on some things, we did try to shave some things to ensure that, you know, as you go up, you want to try to shave on other things. So, again, this is a very, very rough draft. I'm going by, it's our first budget meeting that I'm kind of shooting in the dark here with. Once we have those accurate numbers and I can tell you where we're at and see where our projections were, if we met those 2025 projections, then we can move forward, I think. That's kind of where we're at.
I think the biggest thing that this council needs to look at is why there were three options. For one, we have three options in the budget and we just go to the one. You can see them.
Well, no.
One's the best and two is the wrong.
Chief, is there anything else you'd like to add?
For the financial report, not so much the actual budget report for the financials. In the secondary of the financials, I just wanted to touch on, at the last council meeting, I was approved to move forward with a full-time police administrator position.
Yes.
We completed our interviews. I have found a qualified candidate, a very highly qualified candidate. She came in, interviewed, finalized the interviews, spoke with her. So I wanted to make her a conditional hire offer, but this comes at a caveat. I gave you guys a matrix. That matrix was from a lower pay grade up to a higher pay grade. With that being said, she exceeds all these expectations. She's coming with extreme knowledge, extreme wealth. She's certified in half the things that she would have to get certified for, or someone who wasn't experienced would have to take the time to get certified for. With that being said, she's was in the same situation I was. She doesn't need medical benefits. She's requesting to opt out of it, but in reference to that, she would request it, basically an advanced starting salary request. So for me to exceed that matrix that I went over. So I pitched around a couple ideas, maybe like a stipend or something of that nature, but I figured I don't want to open that floodgate of stipends because we offer a stipend of one employee. If they meet that same criteria, another employee could request it. So I think the easiest thing to do is if this person is going to save us roughly $7,800 by opting out of medical to provide them a sub portion of that back. So what I'm requesting is that council allows me to go over the projected hourly rate by removing the medical benefits that would be provided to a new hire. But ultimately, by doing so, it changes, the Social Security, Medicare, the workers' comp, the Delaware's unemployment insurance, and the pension numbers would change because the salary is higher. But ultimately, in the end, once that employee opted out of the medical benefits, it would actually save us $546 of the overall salary that was based for the $20 matrix. So basically, it's exactly the same salary. So I was just seeking council's approval to move forward with the conditional hire offer for this full-time police administrator.
So in your opinion, you hire this person, that would free you up what you want to street during the day?
Well, it frees up the majority of my administrative tasks. I'm still the chief. I still have daily operations that I must maintain and administrative duties, if you will. I still have chief's meetings to attend and things of that nature. But it takes the stress off of my shoulders to complete the daunting tasks, the daunting daily tasks that have to be done, and it gives me the additional support that I need administratively, yes.
But again, I understand all the meetings, but being out there on the street with town people seeing you, pulling people over, that would free you up to do that outside of the other meetings. I mean, granted, you have to be in the office for a period of time.
Right, yeah.
To do that part, but then you could be out.
It's a hard balance, right? It's a hard balance to maintain the demand of the administrative task that it comes with being a chief of police and operating a police department. The days of a chief just being out on the road are long gone, unfortunately. There's so many, responsibilities that fall with being a chief of police, daily responsibilities, not something I can put off, I'll deal with that next week. Daily responsibilities. But it's a good balance, and that's what I try to achieve. I try to maintain my administrative duties, but also be, seen and out in the public and completing my patrol procedures just like a regular police officer does. So So, yeah, with having a full-time police administrator again, that's gonna help clear my plate, yeah, it's gonna keep me from having to deal with all the little minuscule things that tie me up and tie me down. The past couple months, since the previous, part-time police administrator has gone, has just bogged me down. I still go out, I'm sure each member of council sees me out and sees me still doing patrol procedures, I do it regularly. I have to take some stuff home with me to ensure I get administrative stuff done, so, hopefully with this happening, I don't have to do that. When I get off work, I'm off work, so.
It's allowing you to follow your job description and job title more efficiently.
Yes.
Because right now, technically, you're covering two jobs. You're covering the police admin and the chief of police.
Yes.
I'll make a motion, allow the chief to move forward with this admin candidate.
Do I have a second? Mr. Moran seconds it. I vote yes. Mr. Donovan, how do you vote? Yes. All in favor?
Yes.
And that's all I got. Again, if any member of council or Mr. Mayor, you run into any questions or about the proposed budget, I'd be more than happy to.
Yeah, if you just send us all that email, and I'm gonna
Yep.
take a copy of this for all of this council to see. We'll put one in, Mr. Massey's mailbox as well, so you can see what we want copies of, or I can get it.
Just put it in this mailbox.
I'll put it in the box. So you can see the three different. So we move on to budget discussion from council. Any questions, maybe just pops out. My biggest worry is if it's this difference between the police budget that they thought they said, what numbers are we really looking at? If they found, if Ms. Todd somehow used that much money and found it from somewhere, where did she find it from? What the account did it come out of? I would like to see the books completely relooked.
Since this is our first budget meeting, and sometimes there are unanswered questions, what I recommend is we get some answers, go through some process, and we've got another budget meeting coming up. Because I have questions on this, I know that I'm gonna hold off on. It doesn't break it out in a way that, I'm gonna call them buckets, it's in a way that is easily understood, like, okay, I see we have liabilities, this is the money, but that bulk amount is usually broken into different categories.
Line items.
Yes,
I'm not saying
And there
everybody
is-
is that.
right. So I say we table that until the next meeting.
I would like to see somebody come in and take a look at our books and review them.
Okay.
Give me a motion with that, but I think for us to be able to adequately figure out a budget, we need to make sure the numbers that we are looking at are correct and consistent, especially seeing, because I see the chief of police are seeing numbers that are not even close to what he has, is completely separate than what the town has. That lies the biggest issue of trying to figure out the budget. If you're auditing, you don't do the budget, all you do is report. I'm sure you did very well, good job at that. And if those numbers aren't even close to what our town numbers are showing, then there's no way of figuring out a correct budget if the numbers are not in line, especially with the chief department, because who knows what can or worms that could open up later down the line. So if we try to figure out a budget based off these numbers, and these numbers are inaccurate, where are we going?
No, I hear you. I can make a motion on it, but what's the idea?
I would like to have somebody come in and take a look at the numbers to make sure that whatever has been lined out is lined out, and that we have deductions from the correct accounts, that are supposed to be deducted from the correct account,
Okay.
such as the money that Chief is supposedly missing. We have 3 different budgets from, that we were using. I think all of that needs to be taken a look at from somebody outside to reassess where the numbers actually stand, so we know where we're from.
Okay. I'm just getting my head around it, that's all.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we have this, somebody come in and go over our QuickBooks, is what you're talking about. Okay. I would say let's make sure that we're, informed on this. I like the idea, like I get what you're saying, but I'm fine with that. In the present circumstances, I think it's wise. I'll make the motion.
My question on that is, gentlemen, where are you pulling the money from? How you gonna pay? And this person, you wanna come in and look at the books, they're not gonna come in here and do it for free. So where are you gonna pull the money from? You're already questioning dollars and cents here and there, so where's the money coming from? You have to know where it's coming from, or the taxpayers in the town are gonna eat you for breakfast.
Well, at this point, we don't know where it seems like any of the money's coming from.
Well, that's something that we need to figure out where it's coming from.
The only
We
way
need
do
to talk
that-
to your accounting people or get some advice, because right
Yeah,
now,
so
you're spending taxpayers' money that you don't know where it's coming from.
So I've been talking to the auditor way for months and months now, and they strongly suggest a monthly coordinator come in to redo our books.
I
That
understand,
is even an option that they related for our
but
last.
you need to look at this paper, Mr. Mayor, and figure out which one of these accounts that you're legally able to pull money from to pay this person to come in, which is a good idea. That frees up the office paying, that things are done correctly, like a payroll accountant that comes in and takes care of all this, but we still need to know where the money's going to come from.
We can establish that at a later date, but I need permission from council to figure out, to make sure that we can have somebody come and take us to the book.
We got $80,000 in a community bank expense account, was specific for that, but one time we had about 400,000, and now we got 80,000 that you could pull from that expense account.
As long as we know where it's coming from, I don't have a problem with it. Just as long as we have it written
That's
down,
what it was.
that it's.
Originally it was for that, if you had some unexpected, something came up, that's where you would draw that money from. It's not, you're not locked into, like water is water and trash is trash, but there's 80,000 there, and hopefully it wouldn't cost,
I don't
too much.
No, I wouldn't say.
I would suggest if we make the motion and go with this, that we get a dollar price as to how much it's gonna cost before we really, you know what I mean?
I'm with Councilman.
I mean, just saying, go do this, we don't know how much it costs, I would think that we should have somebody, give
We
you
don't
a
want,
price as to
we
what
don't
it
want
costs.
sticker shock.
No, I agree with that as well, but as long as we can put the word out, as council's approval, if we could put in the word out, if something comes up, we can put it out there, and then we can have a special meeting and vote upon the cost of it, where it's coming from.
As long as it is followed through, you do it, like everything else, it has to be put out for bids.
Yep.
And sealed bids, and then opened at a date and done correctly.
I'm trying to figure out what undeposited funds for $392,000 are. If it's undeposited, so that would mean that it's,
And these are the
Then
things,
where does it go?
these are the things that worry me when looking and trying to make
and
it.
it may just be undeposited where I've seen where they pay a bill and then it's undeposited, and then when they come back and get the check, then they do it.
300,000, where'd you get it from?
It just says undeposited,
We're
it's
not-
undeposited funds. It means you got funds and they haven't been deposited.
We just
So, I mean,
got-
I'm just,
we
and I'm
just
trying to
got-
explain
Okay,
what,
okay,
We just got a
That's enough.
$300,000
That's
for next story.
that's enough.
well, what this is, I've seen it before and I'm not sure that's what it is why I just asked the question. Undeposited is like, if you send out billing, you have the billing, and then when the money comes in, and then that wipes that out. So, I mean, I just don't, I'm just kind of curious what undeposited funds were.
So, would the motion be put out both bids to someone, like a monthly quarterly to look at the books?
I wanna table this. Alright, yeah.
Second.
Is there a motion to table? Then you take your motion back to do it? Need a second? Yes.
That's all fair.
Table the whole topic
Yes.
until,
We may have to have a,
I'd say September council meeting.
Don't we have a financial meeting in September already? Is that like-
we're gonna be
yeah,
discussing.
budget workshop.
Okay.
I don't.
Hold on, Carolyn.
Hold on, Carolyn. I would like to see a special meeting made, particularly to getting our books in line. We cannot keep pushing this back. We have taxes, there's two main priorities for this town right now, is our budget and our taxes. We can't figure out the taxes if we don't know what our budget is. That's the end of it. If we're looking at numbers that mean nothing and we're trying to figure out a budget that we don't even know what to deal with, how are we expected to figure out what the taxes are gonna be for our town? We don't know. So I think figuring out this budget and where these numbers actually stand with such conflict of numbers, especially between the police department, we have an undeposited fund of so much money. We, as a council, can't understand what we're supposed to do with the next budget. In all honesty, I think the biggest priority is to have somebody come in here, re-go through our books, figure out where our budget stands currently, that way we know how to, make the next budget correct. We can't do it the right way.
I'm in agreement. The way that it was brought up, I'm not trying to bust on it. It's
No, it's not.
cart before the horse. It's like, all right, I get it, but I need more information because we're about to make a decision. Audits are not inexpensive. I get the need, all of that. I just want to make sure we're clear on what we're doing. So as a council member, when I get asked questions, I'm understanding. Like I get the end result we're after, but the procedure to get there, that there hasn't. It appears there has not been any conversation. Like PKS is our auditing firm,
Yes.
and has there been a conversation with them? I'm asking you, Mayor.
For
For
looking
an
at our books.
idea like this, yeah.
They mentioned it in our last report that they suggested we had a monthly coordinator
They
come in.
did.
So, yes, they did, to come in and look at our books. That's what they suggested, because when the reason it's taking so long is that the books are such a mess that they're doing way more above what they're supposed to be doing, because they have to go through the numbers and pinpoint where the numbers align for them to correctly do the audit.
Okay, with the audits, and that's correct, that's what they said in the 2020 audit report.
Correct.
But what I'm saying is that we need recommendations for vendors who actually do that. There's contact, and this is a suggestion, not a motion at the moment. That if we're going down that road, then an individual has to reach out to vendors that do this work.
Yes.
Hey, what is your ballpark price? Because Councilman Moran brought up, you could hit an amount where now you've got to put it out to bid under the town charter if we hit that threshold. We don't know. That's what I'm saying. And I'm fine with special meeting, but then there's got to be more information on the front. These two vendors, these three vendors. Yes, this is what I found. Hey, it's $50. And throw me a pizza and this very qualified vendor. That's what I'm getting at. We need that before. I was trying to help with the motion, like, okay, this is kind of a plan here, but it's like, whoa.
So the first thing we need to do is
I
put
think
out.
I think carte launching it is not a good idea.
Okay.
That but somebody needs to make contact with however you delegate that mayor. Yeah, who are the vendors? You're the primary contact with PKS. I'm sure they might know somebody.
I can reach out to PKS.
Okay.
Carolyn, if you want to put out any strings that would like to come in for vendors to come out for a monthly coordinator, one would possibly come in and take a look at our books. reach out to PKS.
Okay.
And get some options from there. And then once we have that, then hopefully maybe call a special meeting, particularly voting on that, and who we're using,
Okay.
and the cost of that.
Sounds good.
You guys have any questions?
Just remember, when you do call for a special meeting, I need it in an email form directly from you. I
Yes.
can't go by, I gotta have it in writing in order for me to type it up, submit it to Carolyn. It's gotta be in a written form coming from you. So I can, that way I have it documented that you can call for it, and I can send it to her, and then it gets
Like we
posted.
did before.
Gets posted here, the post office, and I believe the third one is the library,
Yep,
and your
Facebook.
big sign out there.
Through, yeah, and through FOIA, it technically does not need to be posted on social media, it needs to be posted in certain places. Unfortunately, we didn't have access to the Facebook to be able to post the last two agendas, which is why they were not on our social media, unfortunately. Now, I believe we did regain access to Facebook, so these meetings, these agendas will now be posted from following forward. But, I mean, the reason they weren't is because we didn't have access to any of our social media accounts. And from my understanding from our solicitor, it's not needed to be able to post on social media as long as it posted in the public, which we did, and we took pictures of it. So it was in town, as long as it's posted at town hall, library, and the post office, that settles all FOIA requirements. But from here on forward, they will be now posted on our Facebook account as well, seeing as we now finally have been able to re-access our Facebook account. So. I don't think we can do much more. Don, you have any?
No. Fix this up.
That will be end of the budget. We are now actually going to move into executive session, so I will make a motion.
I'll make a motion to go into executive session.
Mr. Nelson makes a motion to go into executive session. Do I have a second? Okay. Mr. Donovan seconds it. Mr. Moran, vote.
Yes.
Yes, I vote yes. All in favor? We are going into executive session at 7:20.